$1 million shelter buys you two neat things: reinforced walls and a neon target. In a collapsed world, visibility becomes vulnerability. The loud, the obvious, the well-advertised, all of that draws attention faster than supplies run out. Now imagine places that don't advertise themselves. Places that already have walls, water systems, and layouts designed to channel movement. Places that, with a few small moves, can offer better survival value than a flashy, expensive fortress. I'll walk you through 5 forgotten ruins that, in the right hands, often beat a conspicuous $1 million shelter, because they trade spectacle for concealment, permanence for mobility, and cost for built-in advantage. Before we go any deeper, this is about risk reduction, not guarantees. No ruin is invulnerable. Structural collapse, contamination, and chronic exposure are real threats. Your rules should be mobility over monument. Use these places as tools, short-term hubs, caches, or way stations, not as cults you never leave. If you want the printable ruins recon checklist I mention here, hit subscribe and check the link in the description. Keep it on your phone or printed with your go bag. Know the rules before you try to use a ruin. First, escape beats fight. Your body exists to move you out. Every tactic you use should prioritize creating and keeping exits. Second, physics wins. Leverages, chokes, sightlines, and structural geometry matter more than brute force. Third, minimize profile. Light, sound, and fresh tracks are how you become a target. And fourth, breathe. Under stress, your breathing tightens, your vision narrows, and decisions follow that poor oxygen pattern. Slow, controlled breaths buy the time to choose the exit. Keep those micro drills simple. 3 slow inhales through the nose, 1 steady exhale through the mouth, and a quick awareness sweep. Left, center, right. That small pattern resets you enough to use the exit plan you practiced. With that, let's run the list, 5 down to 1. 5 abandoned subway and underground transit tunnels. You drop into a platform that smells of damp stone and rust. Echoes bend differently underground. Footsteps carry but aren't obvious until they're close. A subway is a corridor system with vertical control. Entrances, stairwells, shafts that let you manage contact from above rather than being exposed on a street corner. Why it can beat a $1 million shelter. First, concealment. Subway access points are easily masked by debris, overgrowth, or a boarded storefront. No obvious compound walls. Second, climate stability. Underground spaces hold temperature better than exposed shelters and reduce exposure to the elements. Third, compartmentalization and choke points. Platforms, service rooms, and maintenance tunnels create natural zones you can isolate or bypass, allowing you to deny movement without building elaborate fortifications. Approach and entry. Avoid main station entrances during daylight.
Look for secondary access, ventilation grates, service doors, or freight shafts. When you approach, watch for signs of recent traffic, fresh trash patterns, footprints, or piled items. Move low and slow. Light is your enemy. Bring a headlamp with a red filter and keep it off unless needed. If you find a stairwell, listen at thresholds. Sound travels differently down concrete. If the stairway funnels noise, consider an alternate shaft or set a lookout farther away. Interior checklist. Map the exits in your head the moment you step inside. Mark platforms with chalk or subtle tags so you know which entrance leads where. Identify dry areas and ledges above flood levels. Note any functioning handrails and the location of electrical panels. Find at least 2 exit routes and a 3rd emergency route, maybe a tunnel that connects to a retail basement or a freight corridor. Cache small supplies in service rooms, light, spare batteries, a rope, a compact tarp. Keep a tarp or plastic sheeting for improvised bedding and a small bio bag for waste. Pay attention to air. Black mold and stale pockets can ruin your health fast. Exit and escape routes. Vertical is your friend. Stairs and ladders that exit into narrow alleys or behind buildings are better than large street egress. If an exit puts you directly into a main avenue or visible plaza, plan to move quickly through it at low profile. No light, no unnecessary noise. Minimal fortification and deterrence. Make doors irrelevant rather than impenetrable. A heavy, noisy door is a liability. A blocked stairwell that forces an approaching team into a choke point is better. Use furniture, chains, or stacked debris to slow movement, not to create a defensive last stand. Leave no obvious signs that the tunnel is occupied. Scatter decoy trash outside to simulate emptiness. Biomechanical tip for tunnels. Keep a low center of gravity. Concrete surfaces can be wet and slick. Your base of support must be wide when you move. Bend at the hips, drive power from the legs, and use your forearms for contact with low walls. Your skeleton is the frame that lets you keep speed while minimizing slips. In small spaces, controlling distance matters. Use your peripheral awareness to sense when someone is closing. A single step back gives you time to choose the nearest exit. Caveat: flooding and utility failure are real. Never treat a subway as permanent housing. Water ingress can turn a refuge into a trap in hours. Move on once you've secured supplies and a better long-term option. Interlude: a short fear management beat. When sound tightens your chest underground, use the 3-breath reset. Inhale, hold, exhale, sight sweep. Train this until it's reflex. Panic is distance reduction. Your job is to increase distance from threat. 4. Decommissioned municipal water treatment plants and pumping stations. From a distance, a plant looks utilitarian. Tanks, pipes, catwalks, and fenced perimeters with signage that says, "Keep out."
That sign works as a deterrent. These sites were built for redundancy, isolation, and control of a scarce resource, water. When pumps fail across a city, a plant that still has intact tanks, gravity-fed systems, or buried piping is worth an entire shelter's cost in practical terms. Why it can beat a $1 million shelter. Primary, access to water. Second, technical redundancy. Treatment plants have locked rooms, gates, and internal logistics that are not intuitive to casual looters. Third, strategic isolation. Their layouts are designed to separate clean zones from contaminated zones, offering spaces you can adapt for sanitary living. Approach and entry. Always assume electricity is either dead or dangerous. Corroded panels and exposed wiring are hazards. Approach through service roads and avoid main security gates during daylight. If you must enter, move slowly through administrative buildings first. These rooms often contain maps, keys, and schematics. Use those to identify valve rooms and reservoirs. Keep PPE handy: gloves, a respirator or N95, and boots. If you see rotating machinery or standing chemicals, mark it on your map and avoid it. Interior checklist. Secure a dry room at higher elevation. Backup generator rooms, control rooms, or administrative offices built above tank levels. Identify the intake and outflow lines. Even a non-operational filter can be bypassed with simple gravity-fed diversion if you have basic fittings. This is logistics, not manufacturing weapons. Locate hand-washing stations, first aid kits, and storage rooms. Establish a simple filtration plan. Pre-filter particulate matter. Then use chemical or UV processes only if you understand them. Otherwise, prioritize boiling and chemical tabs if available. Exit and escape routes. Plants are often near rivers or reservoirs. These are both supply sources and escape hazards. Control an exit that leads away from open water unless you have a plan to cross silently. The perimeter fence usually has a maintenance gate used by employees. Find it and mark it as a low-profile exit. Avoid obvious service roads that funnel toward main highways. Minimal fortification and deterrence. Lock or barricade small doors to create layered access. Mark unsafe areas with obvious hazards, old signage, paint, or debris to discourage casual entry without revealing habitation. A running pump or visible activity often invites attention. Maintain minimal visible footprint. Movement at night should be with red filter lights and strictly choreographed. Biomechanical tip for plants. Use your legs and hips to handle heavy doors or gates. The pumps and valves you'll move are heavy. Avoid straining your lower back. When lifting, keep the load close, bend at the knees, and drive from your hips. Your body is a lever system, not a stack of muscle to be ripped. If you need to shove a rusted gate, use your hips into the push rather than relying on arm strength alone to reduce injury.
Caveat: chemical hazards, residuals, and corroded structures can be deadly. If you find strange residues, back out and mark the area. Water treatment spaces can also be legally contested. Be mindful of long-term occupation. Interlude: distance management practice. When facing a gate or a narrow doorway, create a single-step buffer. That microspace gives you the reaction time to start the exit pattern: breath, scan, move. 3. Stone cathedrals and large masonry civic buildings. From the outside, they read as monuments: tall windows, buttresses, and cloisters. Inside, they are mazes of rooms, galleries, and roofs that hide volumes of unused space. Stone breathes differently than metal or concrete. It offers durability and thermal mass. Where a $1 million shelter stands out like a polished gem, a cathedral blends into the urban ruinscape as just another relic. Why it can beat a $1 million shelter. First, structural durability. Thick walls mean quieter, more stable interior climates and less day-to-day maintenance. Second, hidden cavities. Clerestories, bell towers, crypts, and attics provide isolated zones that are easy to seal and watch. Third, vertical advantage. Rooflines and towers give observation points that can spot movement kilometers away without advertising presence at ground level. Approach and entry. Avoid large grand doors that face plazas. Look for service entrances, sacristies, or basement access aligned with alleys. Recon by day. Sometimes the best entry is a boarded window that opens into a choir loft. If you must cross a nave, move along side aisles and use the architecture for cover. Pillars will hide your movement. Interior checklist. Identify load-bearing walls and avoid altering them. Map the vertical routes, stair towers, pulpits, bell towers, and any access to roof scat. Basements and crypts are usually dry and can be used for storage, but watch for poor ventilation and mold. Windows can be sealed with removable boards to control airflow and light. Establish a watch schedule for roof and tower observers. One person on high hides a lot of movement below. Exit and escape routes. Design exits so that they put you into back alleys or courtyards, not main squares. The tower routes are often less obvious to outsiders. If you must move through large open spaces, stagger movement times to avoid creating patterns. Minimal fortification and deterrence. Use the building's own geometry. Close the obvious large doors and leave secondary doors accessible only by narrow approaches. Drapes, rugs, and dismantled pews make good interior noise dampeners. A few well-placed obstacles in large halls force approaching groups into predictable lanes without the need for metal defenses. Biomechanical tip for masonry interiors. When climbing towers or traversing roof lines, keep your center of gravity low and feet under your hips. Uneven stone and loose mortar are fall hazards. Use your legs for controlled steps rather than relying on upper body reach.
For moving through low doorways or tunnels, lead with your shoulders angled, feet staggered. A stable base prevents unexpected slips. Caveat: masonry ruins can conceal structural instability. Heavy storm events or vibrations cause older mortar to fail. Never sleep under cracked arches, and mark suspect areas clearly. Interlude: calming tactile practice. Feel a small pebble in your pocket. Hold it for 3 slow breaths. The tactile focus brings you back into the present and prevents panic from turning into frozen indecision. 2. Decommissioned military forts, bunkers, and armories. These places were built to deny access. Thick concrete, embrasures, underground magazines, and observation slits designed to control sightlines and movement. Abandoned forts may carry a cultural weight, but as ruins, they're often overlooked because they look ominous and are hard to enter without local knowledge. That built-in deterrent can work in your favor. Why it can beat a $1 million shelter. First, defensive geometry. These sites were engineered to channel and observe. Second, durable storage spaces. Magazines and armories, even strepped, often contain useful shelving, hardened doors, and locked rooms suitable for caches. Third, remote placement. Many forts sit on promontories, ridgelines, or islands, natural barriers that slow approach. Approach and entry. Never assume a fort is empty or unexplored. Watch approaches for traps, obstructions, or fresh human sign. Use blind spots and natural cover, bushes, low ridgelines, to reach peripheral access points. If you find a gated blast door, avoid forcing it. Instead, search for maintenance access, drainage galleries, or adjacent service buildings. Interior checklist. Locate the command post or central observation room first. These spaces often have the clearest view of approaches. Map ventilation shafts, blind corridors, and escape tunnels that were originally intended for emergencies. Identify dry storage rooms with metal shelving and intact doors. These are the best places to keep gear. Check insulation and heating options. Many forts have remnants of serviceable stoves or flues. Exit and escape routes. Forts are great for observation but can be isolating. Ensure you have routes that don't funnel you into a single valley or dead end. Peripheral tracks, service roads, and old utility lines often provide alternative routes to the nearest woodline or water source. Minimal fortification and deterrence. Use the embrasures and slits to observe without revealing posture. A simple camouflage net over an observation slit makes you invisible to distant watchers. Place deterrents that mimic active occupancy. Rumpled bedding and occasional light without broadcasting regular patterns. Biomechanical tip for forts. When moving across uneven parapets or sloped earthworks, shorten your stride and keep your weight centered. Falls from those heights are rarely survivable. A compact, stable stance lets you correct if the ground shifts. Practice moving with weight-bearing gear to maintain agility without sacrificing balance. Caveat: unexploded ordnance and old munitions are a real hazard. If you find suspicious containers or rusted shells, mark and avoid. Don't attempt to move or dismantle anything you don't understand. 1. Abandoned hospitals, pharmacies, and research buildings. These structures are the most contested, but also the most valuable. Medical supplies, sterile rooms, refrigeration units, and often isolated storage make hospitals immediate resource hubs. If you can manage the biohazard risks, a well-scouted medical facility can provide short-term survivability that dwarfs any expensive shelter. Why it can beat a $1 million shelter. First, critical supplies. Bandages, antibiotics, sutures, basic sterile tools, and pharmaceuticals may still be usable in the short term.
Second, modular rooms. Operating theaters, supply closets, and pharmacy vaults are designed for inventory control, which you can repurpose for organized storage. Third, sanitation infrastructure. Sterile rooms, isolation wards, and sinks give you an advantage in maintaining health. Approach and entry. Hospitals are magnet sites, so stealth and timing are everything. Approach via maintenance corridors, staff entrances, or underground parking. These are less observed than main lobbies. Bring protective equipment, gloves, respirator, eye protection, and sturdy boots. Expect poor lighting and torn HVAC systems. If you find pharmaceuticals, confirm packaging and expiry as best you can. Some items degrade quickly without refrigeration. Interior checklist. Prioritize the pharmacy, clean utility rooms, and operating theaters for immediate salvage. Secure a dry, clean room with a lock if possible, ideally a staff locker room or administrative office. Inventory items on a single sheet. Dressings, sterile packs, antibiotics, sutures, and analgesics. Set up a sanitation zone, a rinsing station, a decontamination setup, and a strict clean versus dirty rule. Ventilate areas before prolonged occupancy, and avoid basements that smell of sewage. Exit and escape routes. Hospitals often have multiple exits, staff doors, loading docks, ambulance bays, and elevators that connect to underground garages. Elevators are unreliable in a collapse. Use stairwells as primary exit plans and map every stairwell to its egress point. Ambulance bays often lead to service roads that are less trafficked. Minimal fortification and deterrence. Lock and label supply rooms as contaminated to discourage casual foragers. Use visible markers that suggest hazardous conditions. Phrases like biohazard or construction will reduce foot traffic without revealing habitation. Set small visible deterrents at primary ingress points, but never make your presence obvious. Biomechanical tip for medical buildings. When carrying supplies or injured people, use your legs and hips for lifts, and always brace with your core.
Two-person carries should be practiced so that one can stabilize the load while the other navigates. If you must push a gurney or trolley, use short controlled bursts and keep the load centered to avoid backstrain. Caveat: biological contamination and mold are serious. Hospitals have chemical hazards and potential biohazards. Discard items that are clearly contaminated. If you lack proper PPE or training, limit your handling to sealed supplies and non-invasive uses. Synthesis: moving between ruins. Picture this. You start at a subway platform with 2 days' worth of food and a cache of batteries. You use the subway's vertical exits to move to an old cathedral's service basements to store bulky items under cryptic markings. As the neighborhood shifts, you extract to a water plant at the river's edge to secure a day's worth of fresh water, and then scout a nearby fort for a short observation window. Finally, you stage into a hospital for medical grabs and treat a sprained ankle before moving on. The rule through that scenario: don't sink. Each location gives you a specific resource, and you leave before it becomes known. Mobility is the escape valve. You use one ruin for concealment, another for supply, another for observation. Your decision rule is simple. When the risk of staying outweighs the value of what you have there, you leave that place the way you found it. No obvious tracks, no trash piles, and a plausible empty story if someone asks. Final checks and everyday drills. Keep a 3-point checklist for any ruin: exits mapped, air quality acceptable, and essentials cached. Practice the breathing reset and the one-step buffer. Run a weekly recon route mentally. Where would you go if this ruin was compromised at 0600? Make small caches along your projected route: sealed water, a strip of batteries, a rope, distributed across locations so you're never tied to a single point. Remember the golden rules: avoid fights, deny access rather than seek a stand-up confrontation, practice noise discipline, and never mistake possession for sustainability. A ruin can be safer than a $1 million shelter because it costs nothing to conceal, offers built-in systems you can use, and allows you to remain mobile. But none of that matters if you become complacent. Closing. One-line recap and action. Subway tunnels hide you, water plants feed you, masonry buildings shelter you, forts observe for you, and hospitals heal you. Each offers advantages that a high-profile shelter can't match because they trade conspicuous permanence for usable systems and anonymity. Use them wisely, leave when the risk rises, and prioritize exit over resistance. If you found this useful, subscribe and grab the Ruins Recon checklist in the description. Print it, save it, and train with it. I'll be making deep dive videos on each ruin type. Grab the checklist and join the recon. Survival isn't theater, it's adaptation.
The ruins won't glitter, but they will keep you moving, and more often than not, keep you alive.